Hello, my name is Madison Sandoval-Lunn, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm the Family and Youth Empowerment Program Area Manager for the Capacity Building Center for States. I leverage over a decade of lived and professional experience to lead, coordinate, and manage efforts related to promoting and enhancing family, youth, and stakeholder engagement across the center's service delivery areas and to further the Children's Bureau vision and priorities. I advance these efforts by partnering with the Children's Bureau staff and cross-centered teams, including the center's pool of family and young adult consultants. I started my lived experience work at my local youth advisory board when I was 17 years old, supporting the planning and execution of youth conferences and raising issues related to foster care during legislative advocacy days. I worked with a small team of young people to co-write the Foster Care Bill of Rights and let young people know the importance of completing the National Youth in Transition Database Survey. When I was 19, I went on to Capitol Hill to work on diversity and equity issues, including raising awareness on important foster care issues. I've led statewide youth work groups to improve LGBTQ competency among resource providers and child welfare professionals. I've served on federal compliance review teams, provided consultations and technical assistance to states and jurisdictions, and delivered trainings to thousands of child welfare professionals on a range of topic issues. Presently, I advise and consult with federal, state, and local agencies on ways to meaningfully engage and share power with people with lived experience. I have also supported people with lived experience to provide consultation to federal agencies and states and jurisdictions. That's just a few highlights of my personal and professional lived experience and background, and I would like to thank all of the adult supporters in my life who have helped me grow into the person I am today. And with that, I turn it over to Jennifer Rhodes.
Thank you, Madison. Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Rhodes, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And currently, I reside in Nashville, Tennessee. So in my professional world, I hold two roles. For one, I am a national program coordinator for youth in transition who are going on to pursue post-secondary education with a variety of different degrees. And then additionally, I serve as a national consultant through the Capacity Building Center of States with Madison, where I've supported a variety of projects along the lines of continuous quality improvement, child and family service reviews, promoting safe and stable families, in-home services, and then additionally being able to serve as a coach to other young professionals with lived expertise. I began my career in advocacy, serving in the Tennessee Supreme Court under the Court Improvement Program, and I held that role for 8 years and was able to work across the 6 counties in Middle Tennessee. Additionally, in that role, I conducted presentations about the realities of life in foster care by sharing my lived experience and then also what I was seeing in the courtroom currently around educational barriers and then providing that experience with the court personnel like lawyers, guardian ad litems, judges around the barriers that young adults are facing when it comes to engagement and provide insight for improvements upon that. So thank you all so much for coming here today and hearing our talk, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Madison.
Thanks, Jennifer. And we wanted to start off with some context setting. So we wanted to talk with you all about the Information Memorandum 1903, which was released by the Children's Bureau in August of 2019. The purpose of this IM is to demonstrate that family and youth voice are critical to a well-functioning child welfare system, and to encourage all public child welfare agencies, dependency courts, and court improvement programs to work together to ensure that family and youth voice are critical and central to the child welfare program planning and improvement efforts. In this document, there's a lot of great information, but we wanted to make sure that we start off by defining the 3 different levels of engagement today. The first level includes the individual or practice level engagement. Individual level engagement focuses on the fundamental relationships, and it recognizes that the relationship between the caseworker or other child welfare professionals and the family or youth voice is critical to accomplishing the goals of safety, permanency, and well-being. It supports the belief that all aspects of the child welfare system be used as a method to create a strength-based approach to establishing and maintaining relationships to accomplish change together at the individual or practice level. This includes setting goals together, developing case plans, and making joint decisions. Individual level engagement achieves buy-in and empowers individuals to drive the decision-making process. I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
And so next we want to talk about the peer level or peer-led engagement. So these peer mentoring programs enlist the individuals who were once involved in the child welfare system, which we call lived expertise now, to help others involved in the child welfare system currently meet their case plan goals and know how to navigate the system. Parents, caregivers, and youth mentors can assist by doing that through mutual sharing, support, and advocacy. Peer-led services are quickly becoming the common best practice in child welfare because parents and youth partner programs are founded on the premise that these experiences that we have gone through in the system provide those parents and caregivers with unique qualifications to help by serving as empathetic peers, mentors, guides, and advocates. And then Madison's going to talk about systems level.
Thanks, Jennifer. And at the last level is the systems level, which occurs with the intentional inclusion of family and youth and young adults who are or were formerly involved with the child welfare system as active participants in systems change activities. At the system level, they advocate for policy changes. They may serve on decision-making boards. They may even help to evaluate child welfare services and programs. They may be employed as practice advisors and consultants, and they may also be recruited to conduct trainings and participate in social media marketing campaigns. You've heard some examples of myself and Jennifer participating in different systems level engagements, and I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer once more to talk about some key considerations.
Some of the points from 1903 that I hope you take from today are one, enhance the engagements of parents and youth in the case planning process and service delivery. Two, empower involvement in the systems to determine service needs and then expedite family-based permanency. And three, empower caregivers to operate in the best interest of the youth and family by using their voices and expertise as advocates for the youth and family. So as youth and families become system involved, it's inevitable that they're going to need to navigate the court system. And although the court system is well-intentioned, it is more of a procedural space that seems to have a climate that can feel binary and sometimes enforcement-based. So it's important to understand that the court system is not necessarily friendly or a positive space for everyone. For you all as our service professionals, the space is very work-specific, but for our youth and families, their experience is entirely personal, and at times this can feel very invasive. Youth and families engage with these spaces typically when their rights and privileges are being reconsidered and their independence and autonomy is being threatened. So what is your experience of the court system when you're on the receiving end? And how about when your capacity to live your life is being questioned through a process that you don't really understand? I would like for you to kind of think about how dignifying of an experience that it would be to have to share your time, all of your personal information, and then also be compliant to expectations that change how you're allowed to daily live your life. So to talk about dignity, dignity is defined in two ways. One is the state or quality of being worthy of honor or respect, and then two, a sense of pride in oneself or self-respect. So as we strive to increase safety outcomes for youth and families, we have to acknowledge that safety is multidimensional. So this can include emotional, relational, mental, and physical safety. So to what degree do we create a climate that encourages a safe and dignified space for discussions for youth and families? We have to remember that this environment often polices behavior, sometimes dismisses culture, language, and other nuanced family dynamics. So in order to create court systems that are friendly to youth and families, we need to strive to be more intentional about how we support and approach those that are court involved, taking into account the emotional, physical, and cultural experiences that have shaped them into this current space, which ultimately has led them to have the most intimate parts of their life on display. So when present in a court setting, youth and families are often walking into these situations with feeling they have little to no power. And the traditional functioning of the court settings can at times feel cold, sterilized, and binary. And it also requires a level of literacy from all participants. And most of our youth and families are experiencing these spaces for the very first time, and we have to acknowledge that they are facing these stacked power and climate dynamics. So families struggle to also trust systems, especially after involuntary involvement. So we cannot assume that compliance with what the court has laid out means that the family actually feels supported, and we can't assume that when they do elevate their voice that it's going to align with what the court expects. So, how do we balance this power dynamic to bring families restoration and then also support them from a place of dignity? What does this mean in the context of case planning and youth and families proactively driving solution? This means they need a climate that is safe and one that provides dignity. So let's think about whose voice has the most power in the court setting. Is it the lawyers? Is it the judges? The case notes? Why is it not the youth and families? In my personal experience as a foster youth in care, once as a child and then once as a teenager, I often felt that there were people with really good intentions, but their choices for what was best for my life still impact me to this day. I bring to this conversation both lived and professional expertise. Professionally, I was contacted about supporting a program called the Court Improvement Program, where I would serve as a peer advocate for young adults that were currently experiencing foster care. This was an amazing opportunity for me because it was an opportunity for me to be able to show other young adults that their voice is powerful and needed. This meant helping them identify what independence really looked like for them and then helping increase the court supports that were available. In this role, I would receive training in the areas that impact young adults consistently, which were placement, health, education, visitation, independent living, and transitional living. This was pivotal because not only did I have my lived experience, but I was also then equipped with knowledge and skills to better understand all of the opportunities available in the system that the system could provide, and then meet with each and every young adult present to elevate their own experiences, identify gaps, and then aid in the creation of a safe environment that allowed them to express their concerns, wants, and ultimately their long-term goals. On the opposite end of this, when the court system would hear the young adults and their families, they would create areas of follow-up recommendations that went into the case notes that had to be reviewed each and every time. The point is that this court process had community due to the presence of lived expertise. There was intentional time spent, infrastructure behind my role, and resources allocated to facilitate empowering supportive services. In order to improve practice, courts could benefit from having a mandated presence of lived expertise that serves youth and families. Allocating resources in this capacity restores balance and supports the restricted schedules of the court by providing wraparound structures, and this shifts the traditional setting of courts for youth and families while honoring the full dignity and worth of a person by seeing youth and families as the subject matter experts to lead their own case. So here are my following recommendations for restoring balance and creating a youth-centered court system. 1, court personnel can critically assess bias and identify the root cause of disempowerment in the court system. Partner with your local youth and family vetted organizations and then create goals for the court to mobilize empowerment. 2, providing a bidirectional space of learning and partnership through having well-supported lived experts who can really build the rapport, intentionally plan, and support the youth and families through engagements with the courts by using their own voice. 3, provide a safe space to share views by acknowledging the power dynamics of being system involved and identifying family strengths from the beginning. Don't jump to judging, don't fix, just validate and name their goals before moving to problem solving and assigning their goals. 4, lead with compassion to youth and families while having humility that the system causes unintentional harm. And then 5, acknowledge each step of growth should be celebrated and authentically engage those with lived expertise to vet that the environment being created is one that supports authenticity, balances power, and does not value opinions of length of professional experience over youth and families in the plan for their life. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. And with that, I'm going to highlight a couple more considerations for you all as you're thinking about engaging young people. When you're working with young people, it's really important to understand the adolescent brain development, the part of the brain that is responsible for things like abstract thoughts, ability to predict consequences of actions, and problem solving isn't fully developed until a young person is about 26 years of age. When you're working with a young person, it's really important to talk through all of the available options, including the potential costs, the benefits, and the risks, and allow time for young people to process the information and ample opportunity to ask questions and not to rush young people into any decision making. It's also really important to be trauma informed when you're working with young people. Trauma can impair the processing of information and decision making. So make sure that you're working with a young person to assess the present situation, Build in time to share information and share the information in a multitude of ways, including in written form and checking for understanding regularly. Adultism may be a new term for you all, but adultism is defined as behaviors and attitudes based on the assumptions that adults are better or know better than young people, therefore are entitled to act upon young people without their agreement. A good example of this might be assuming that the young person cannot help themselves, or we help them in such a way that limits their ability to help themselves. Young people are not given the opportunity to make important decisions or take on responsibilities because we assume that they are not ready, or we assume it's too hard for them to keep track. This is referred to as dysfunctional rescuing. Age, as well as cultural differences, are assumed to be superficial, and young people are denied the opportunity to express themselves fully and to bring their own skills, beliefs, and attitudes into the conversations. Adults might either treat young people as adults or treat them as little children and not respect the contributions that young people bring. I've raised three important key points already: brain development, trauma, and adultism as key considerations when you're approaching and working with young people. Now I want to highlight some approaches for successful engagement. When you're working with young people, it's really important to understand that there's no one size that fits all. Spend the time to build a relationship, get to know their interests, skills, strengths, and find or create new opportunities or the right opportunities for them to be engaged effectively. For some, it's their storytelling. This can be a really healing process. For others, it might be reviewing documents and providing feedback and other recommendations. With sufficient planning and support, young people can also serve as partners and help to develop and deliver trainings, facilitate conversations and presentations just like this, as being one of those examples. By investing in positive youth development, young people can take on more leadership roles, such as serving on decision-making boards, leading work groups, as well as committees. It is really important to invest the time, the people, and the money to make sure that young people can meaningfully engage and participate in systems change. When I say take the time, it means to take the time to level set. Make sure that you give young people enough time with enough context and allow young people to prepare their thoughts, their ideas, and their recommendations, and not spring things on them on the last minute. Make sure you have the right people who, one, like young people, and two, understand that young people have valuable perspectives that will help to create systems change. There needs to be a belief and understanding that young people are organizational assets and they can help us transform the system because they are closest to the issues and therefore more likely to come up with creative solutions that we might not otherwise have thought of. Put your money where your mouth is, which is making sure that you recognize the value that young people bring and their expertise, and making sure that you're also valuing their time and that you allocate resources to compensate them competitively for their expertise. Giving young people a pizza party for their time, recommendations, effort, and lived experience is not sufficient, and it is not respectful of a young person's time and effort. Make sure that you provide training and support. And I've already talked about making sure you have the right people, but training and support is absolutely necessary to making sure that young people have all the information they require so that they can have all the right information about the system and how they can help to transform the system moving forward. Reciprocity is also really important. So make sure that you're not constantly just taking from young people, and that you are recognizing that this is an opportunity for them to create systems change, but an opportunity for them to also develop personally and professionally. And that some of the engagement opportunities that you create may be the very thing that can actually help to create life-changing opportunities for them and for others. Finally, it's really important that you create feedback loops. And that means that you are constantly asking young people what's working, what's not working, what's missing, and then asking them what they think are some of the opportunities to enhance this work. This means providing young people with feedback and coaching to continuously enhance their skills and their abilities so that they too can be successful and develop professionally. These are some of my recommendations, and we also have a lot of great resources to share with you all. And with that, we thank you for your time. I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer for our closing statements.
Thank you so much, Madison. So to close, we just want to say thank you all so much for hearing our thoughts and valuing our professional expertise. And additionally, a big thank you to my peers and mentors who have invested in my development and those who believe in the power of lived expertise to really ignite the positive change that we need to see in the child welfare system. And a big thank you also to Madison for partnering with me for the CIP talks and being such a powerful leader in the field. We appreciate everyone for taking the time and investing your time and listening to this today. Thanks.